Sean Vincent Gillis. Cops think he's responsible for the ghastly murders of 3 women in Baton Rouge.
They made a very short but very fine tape of him where he was very nonchalant. Oh yeah, I knew her.
She cleaned my house. I had her clean my house.
There's DNA evidence collected from the bodies of 3 victims.
The DNA evidence obtained all came from the same male.
But so far, no one can prove that male is Gillis. And he didn't feel much like talking anymore once detectives turned up the heat during his interrogation.
Right after that, Sean kind of started getting irritated. He said, look, guys, he said, I haven't killed anyone. You told me if I came, when I was ready to come home, you'd bring me home. I want to go home. I'm ready to go.
Without lab results tying him to the crimes, cops have no choice but to cut Gillis loose.
We had his subdivision locked down. He wasn't leaving without us finding out because we were scared once we got him home, you know, he was going to panic and try to run.
That fear has Major Brian White literally pacing by the phone for the DNA lab results. Then, after several excruciating hours of waiting, the phone rings.
When they called that night, they said, it's him.
You had him.
We had him.
We absolutely knew who the killer was.
The next call White makes is to a judge to get a warrant for Gillis's arrest.
And as soon as the warrants were signed, the SWAT team made preparations to hit his house, and they hit it shortly thereafter.
Cops swarm Gillis's home, and they're in for a shock. The killer doesn't live alone.
I think he was found in bed with Terry.
That's right, Gillis has a girlfriend, Terry Lemoyne, and Terry says she had no idea why a SWAT team is busting down her door.
I'm yelling, what's going on, what's going on? And I look at Sean, and Sean just shrugs his shoulders and says, sorry, honey bunny. And one of the officers turns around and looks at me and says, didn't you know you're living with a serial killer? The whole world came tumbling down that night.
It's a seemingly quiet world Terry has shared with Sean Vincent Gillis for 9 years. A long time since Terry, a convenience store clerk, first laid eyes on the shy, quirky Gillis.
My best friend walks in and says, Sean, this is Terry. Terry, this is Sean. Y'all have everything in common. You have to get to know each other.
Well, what did she think that the 2 of you had in common?
We both loved science fiction. We both loved Star Trek. We both loved collecting things.
At first, there's no clue to what Gillis really liked to collect.
He was cute in a little teddy bear sort of way. The type of person you'd want to bring home to mom, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Platonic dating leads to Terry moving into Gillis's dilapidated house where things, according to Terry, stayed platonic.
Sean didn't believe in sex.
What does that mean?
I asked him about it one time, and he told me that he had been taught that it was a nasty thing and that he shouldn't do that.
Terry still worked at the convenience store. Gillis's only job was picking Terry up after her shift. There's often odd behavior, but Gillis again always has an excuse.
One morning he came and picked me up, and the car had an awful odor in it. And I was so tired, and I was like, what is that smell in the car? And he said he had hit an animal on the way picking me up. Came home, I came inside, went to bed. He went to washing the car.
Terry also notices Gillis is racking up a lot of miles on the car.
And what's his explanation?
Well, I got kind of concerned and wanted to know who he was driving around with.
You thought he was cheating,
I thought he was.
but that's not what he was doing.
No.
What was he really doing?
I found out from the police that he was hunting.
Hunting in what sense?
Looking basically for someone to kill.
Now, 9 years later, surrounded by cops with her boyfriend in cuffs, Terry still can't believe it.
When everything happened, I laughed at the police when they told me why they arrested him.
You laughed.
I literally laughed and told them, boy, do you have the wrong house. They said he admitted it. And at which point my mouth just dropped and I said, well, I'll have to ask him myself.
Next, Terry Lemoyne puts her longtime boyfriend on the hot seat.
I just said, Sean, did you do everything that these police officers said you did?
Cops are convinced Gillis murdered 3 women, but what they don't know is how many more.
And he looked at me and said, hey, you got a pencil?
I just walked into the police station and picked up the little phone and asked. I just said, Sean, did you do everything that these police officers said you did?